And welcome to another Asus Transformer Prime video, and in this video we're going to do some direct comparisons between the Transformer Prime and a Nexus post Jellybean update. So throughout this video, on the left hand side we'll have the Asus Transformer Prime, and on the right hand side we will have the Nexus 7. And the first test I'm going to do is a simple benchmark test using a application called Quadrant, which will do a number of tests for graphics, I/O, memory and so on. Now at the moment the Transformer Prime has tilted itself to a portrait mode, even though the tablet's still in landscape mode, presumably because the application needs to be in portrait mode. And one thing you'll notice when I do this test is that even though I think that I started the Nexus 7 test after the Asus Transformer Prime, the Nexus 7 is already ahead in its tests. Now I'm not entirely sure why that is. You could say that it's because the Nexus 7 is going faster, but by the end of this video, end of this test, you'll find something rather interesting. Just another thing to note, of course, that this is I've used picture-in-picture on the video, and it's obviously not perfectly synced to both videos at the same time, because that would be almost impossible to do perfectly without a lot of editing. So we're just going to let the two videos finish their tests, and then I'll show you the results at the end. Now you will see here that the Nexus 7 has actually finished the test already, so I had to edit the Transformer Prime finishing its test now by doing this. And where my fingers are pointing here, on the left hand side I'm pointing at the Transformer Prime score, what it should get, but it's a score actually below that, which is what the Transformer Prime actually gets. The Nexus 7 slightly outperforms the Transformer Prime, I think by about 100 points, and then you can see the actual scoring down here, which shows that the two scores are very similar. Of course, if you want to look at them in more detail, put it to full screen and pause it at that point, and you'll be able to see the scores again. So that was a benchmark test. I then went on to a Google Earth test, because in a previous video I noticed that Google Earth wasn't performing that well on a Prime. So I did another test here. The first one, again, I was trying to sync this together as much as I could. We're going to zoom into Orlando on both tablets at the same time. And I was going to decide I would start moving the screen as soon as the picture's finished. So it's finished on a Nexus, so I can start moving it a little bit slower on the Asus Transformer Prime, and presumably that's because of the Wi-Fi not going as fast. And then I would just have a look at Orlando for a short time just to check that the 3D buildings were working. And in this comparison, I think the two tablets were more or less the same. There wasn't any particular difference. They both seemed to scroll at the same rate, and the smoothness was quite nice. So I then decided to ramp up the challenge a little bit and then do a jump to London. So they're both jumping to London at the same time. Again, I'm going to wait for the picture to finish downloading the proper satellite picture before I zoom in even further. So as you can see, the Nexus 7 is already racing ahead here, and it's already finished doing its picture. Transformer Prime still waiting, a big blocky section there on the left hand side, still not finished. And already on the Nexus 7 I've been able to zoom into Trafalgar Square, and I'm only just starting to do that now on the Transformer Prime. The Nexus 7 builds its 3D buildings quite quickly, although not in particularly good resolution. But as you can see, there's no jerkiness. It's not really going slow or anything. I can still scroll it around fine. And the Transformer Prime is only just building its 3D buildings now. Now I must stress that I removed the cache on both of these applications, so they had to start from scratch. And I will note that the Nexus 7 here is still waiting to build London Eye, but the Transformer Prime has already done it. So the Transformer Prime seems to have a better draw rate, which was one thing to give the Transformer a bit of a positive light. But in the whole, I think the Nexus 7 did outperform the Transformer Prime in this test. So then I moved on to using a browser. I used Chrome on both tablets. The first port of call, as usual, it was the BBC website to see how fast it would get to the sports pages. So here we are again going to the BBC websites, and both going at more or less the same speed at the moment. But then, because the Prime didn't register one of my clicks, the Nexus 7 always seems a little bit ahead. I'm having to request a desktop site on both modes. I think I did a mispress on the Nexus 7, so again we're at the same point but then I think the Nexus 7 begins to take quite a significant lead. Already finished its page. Transformer Prime still waiting for those pictures before I will advance. There it finishes on the Transformer Prime. I'm already scrolling down on the Nexus 7 on the page that I've arrived at, going down nicely. Nexus Transformer Prime again, still waiting for the pictures to be loaded, and then I'll start scrolling down. So I'd already finished reading the article on the Nexus 7, which has a nicer scrolling action as well, I must point out, but that could be something very individual. Next page I try is Engadget, which is an absolute beast of a website on the desktop version. So already I was a little bit ahead on the Transformer Prime one, so it's loading first, but now the Nexus 7 quickly catches up. It's finished doing the top of the page, and now I can start throwing it down the page, as you can see, doing very quick scrolls. Still waiting for the Transformer Prime, which I don't think ever finished building the sponsor at the top of the page. And time waits for no man, really. I decided to do the next test, which was to go onto the MLB baseball website, which again is another very bandwidth intensive website. So you'll again see that the Transformer Prime does start with a slight edge, but the Nexus 7 quickly catches it up and supersedes it. And again, the Nexus 7 already finished the bits of the page. There's the main picture. I'm still waiting for it to finish the page. Now I think it's finished the page. It is still loading because, again, it's a very busy website. But as you can see, I'm already getting more information on the Nexus 7, which is well ahead, probably 5 seconds ahead of the Transformer Prime at this point. And this is the main point that I keep going back to. The thing that's handicapping the Transformer Prime so much, irrespective of how many updates you do to it, is the Wi-Fi. If the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and for mobile devices, the internet you use 70% of the time, it's the most important thing. And the oddest thing is here, I do a speed test, and the Transformer Prime wins, which is odd in itself completely. The Transformer Prime won there by about 20% on its download speed, but nevertheless, it just doesn't seem to do it in general use. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you found that video useful, and stay tuned for more videos.